Hello. So this is just going to be a little bit of a debriefing, I would call it, from my journal entry yesterday when I was talking about some pretty traumatic stuff that I went through. And if I don't do this for me, I end up being left feeling like I'm a bad person, like I'm stupid, like my past decisions and my past feelings and all that stuff is actually I internalize it too much. So so that's kind of like I just need to kind of recap and clarify and show myself some grace in all of this. So I need to really tell myself that just because I've made some bad choices, I have said things maybe that I shouldn't say, done things that I shouldn't have done, I have had bad relationships. That doesn't mean that I am a bad person. It doesn't make me a bad parent. Um, it doesn't That's not who I am. It's just happened to be something that I did and something that I went through or something that I experienced. Um, Truth be told, I am an intelligent person. I am a good parent. I'm a loving person. I'm an empathetic person, and having gone through all of the trauma that I did go through, I think has, um, all in all, made me a better person. It's made me who I am today, and I happen to like who I am today. I happen to love myself, and kind of what I've learned going through the healing process of this CPTSD that I have, that I've acquired over the years. I've been able to heal through it by by talking things out, by journaling, and giving myself some positive self talk. Um, Sometimes I ask myself, how can I continue to love and respect and have a good relationship with my parents and my family after going through all of the dysfunction of their misguided religious and political beliefs, and kind of the way, I guess you could say, they neglected me as a teenager. They didn't really help me grow up like maybe they should have. But I have to remind myself that in all of that dysfunction and chaos was a lot of love. I never ever questioned that my parents loved me. I knew they did. They were good people. They were very good neighbors to everybody that was around. People liked them. They were likable. They were hardworking and um, cheerful for the most part. My mom was actually hilarious. She was so funny. There was always like some practical jokes going on, or she'd have something silly. She was fun. Um, so I have a lot of good memories tied up in the dysfunction as well. So I think I personally choose to focus more on the good that comes out of something than the bad. Um, Even with Jeff's mental illness and the way that he abused me, and the dysfunction that was in our relationship, he had some good qualities, and I can see the humanity in him as well. It does not, his mental illness does not in any way excuse how he treated me, but it can also help me understand that it was not my fault too, that all of that what happened to me. um, it was mental illness in him. Doesn't justify it, I'm not justifying it, but I can also not have hate towards him because of what happened. um, Also, I have to tell myself that I'm not a bad mother because of what happened during those 6 years. So, I know I talked a bit about being malnourished and having that anxiety that caused me to, to throw up all the time. I weighed 90 pounds in what would have been 1995, I think it was, when at the end of our marriage. I weighed 90 pounds at 5'1", so I was just tiny. Um, and definitely malnourished. But the malnourishment was from, it's kind of like somebody that has an eating disorder, and where you're forcing yourself to throw up, you cause yourself to be malnourished. And that's kind of what happened to me, only I wasn't forcing myself to throw up. I just was, from the anxiety. So, so that was the main cause of my being malnourished. We had probably, like I said, for a while, a very limited amount of money that I would spend at the grocery store. It was probably $50 a week for a family of four, of course, two little kids, which would be about the equivalent of, I think, like maybe $125 a week by today's standard. So not much, and that was, of course, money for toilet paper, shampoo, things like that, cleaning supplies and things like that too. So there wasn't a lot for groceries, so I had to get really creative. But I am actually a stickler for nutrition, and I always have been. Even growing up, we always ate healthy, and and that was something I learned from my mom. So a very positive takeaway. But I love to read books on nutrition. You know, it was very important to me. So even when I was extremely poor, I was always very careful to have a healthy diet for my children. So I would buy whole grains, bulk rice, bulk beans. We'd have dairy, fruits and vegetables. So anything that I could buy, but I'd shop sales. We ate a lot of chicken. And like I said, we poached venison for protein to supplement our diet, which was not, probably the right thing to do, the legal thing to do, but it happened, okay? So I was very conscientious about eating healthy food. Sadly, I just had the anxiety thing, right? So also, when I was pregnant, I was very, very conscientious about prenatal care. I did have midwives, which wasn't super popular probably in the 80s and 90s, but I had always viewed childbirth as something natural. It's not a medical emergency, but I was very careful from the minute I knew that I was pregnant to get proper prenatal care, had proper blood work done, licensed midwife, regular checkups. I followed the food and supplement recommendations by my midwife very, very closely. I had healthy pregnancies, healthy birth weight babies. Sadly, I was not able to breastfeed because my milk dried up due to my anxiety problem. And kind of the interesting thing about the female body is that you give everything to your child. So while I may have had the anxiety and the throwing up, my body gave my babies everything first. So I did end up having healthy babies. Um, but being unable to afford the formula to feed babies when I didn't have breast milk, I, being a staunch researcher and uh, um, craving knowledge about everything, and I had full access to the library. Like I said, I was able to find a book on an older pediatric book that had a recipe for um, a homemade baby formula that was nutritionally sound and covered everything that my kids needed. So they were healthy. So I tell myself, even through all of that, I was a good parent. I took care of my kids. I made sure they had proper nutrition. They were clean. They were clothed. So I'm saying this for me because I end up kind of hating on myself that I didn't provide more for my kids, but I did the best I could, and I think I did well under the circumstances that I was in. I let me think. What else can I say about that? Yeah. So I've always been artistic and crafty and things like that. So always just like to build and create, think outside the box. There's one thing about living completely off the grid is you learn what is a necessity and what is something that's more of just a want. You can definitely see what your wants are and what your needs are. So definitely learn to think outside the box. Learn to be an innovator and get by with less. And I'm also, one thing that I have learned through that whole period of time is that I can overcome almost any obstacle that is thrown at me. Um, when I think about buying my own car and teaching myself to drive, nobody does that. I was able to do that. I overcome came something huge. I also did not want my kids to grow up kind of with the same struggles finding jobs and things that I did. So I made sure that they had their social security numbers. They since I don't know why. I know now that you get your social security number at birth, but you didn't in the early 90s. It didn't work like that. So when I know Jonah was just a baby, so it was probably 1993. I gathered up birth certificates, any other identifying information that I needed. I went to the Social Security office, probably in Missoula. We didn't have the internet then, so you had to, go into the office. You didn't apply for all this stuff online. I went into the Social Security office, got my Social Security number, and got both my kids their Social Security numbers. From there, I taught myself. I studied the driver's manual to get my driver's license. And kind of a funny little tidbit of information, I borrowed my mother-in-law's car. She had to work, so she couldn't take me to the DMV. So I borrowed her car because it had, proper license, registration, and insurance, which my car didn't have. I borrowed her car and drove myself to the DMV to get my license. I passed the written exam and took the driving exam. And I'll never forget when the driving examiner came out to inspect the car. She asked me, "Well, who owns the car and who drove you here?" And I fibbed because I was completely like taken off guard. I'm like, "Oh, It's my mother-in-law's car, and she, had to walk across the street to do something or whatever. I don't know what I said, but it's funny because nobody drives themselves to the DMV to get a license. You're not supposed to drive without a license, so kind of funny. But I got my driver's license, so I did these major things completely on my own. So yay me. you know I figured I can overcome anything after doing those things. Those are hard things, especially when you are super timid and you do not have the skills and the information to advocate well for yourself. But to have done those things, that's huge. That is huge. And I say yay me. So things were bad. It was, it was 6 years of a lot of psychological and physical abuse, but I persevered and I came out the other end a stronger person, a more assertive person, I guess. I mean, I'm not I'm not really bold person anyway. So I mean, even now, some 30 some years later, but I know I can do it. I know I can achieve hard things. I know I'm a good parent. I may have made some bad choices, but that doesn't make me a bad person. Through it all, I am so grateful that I did have a solid Christian faith, because I prayed a lot. I talked to God all the time. Um, Jeff did not like me reading the Bible or praying where he could see it, because he, didn't believe in any of that. But so I would pray and read my Bible when he wasn't looking. But um, I I know it was God who gave me the strength and the courage, really, to achieve a lot of the hard things that I did, and to make it out the other end of that kind of abuse and post traumatic stress disorder in one piece, and actually a better, stronger person. So that is my little pep talk to myself today after talking about all that hard stuff yesterday. So that's it for today, and maybe in the next week or so I'll get into the rest of my story. But today, focusing on some more pleasant things, happier thoughts, giving myself some kudos.